Well, Google has uncovered evidence that Russian operatives bought ads on YouTube, Gmail, and other platforms during the 2016 presidential election.
All right, so joining us now is tech expert Shelly Palmer to weigh in on this. Targeted ads, not uncommon, but government buying ads, that's a different story, right?
It is a different story. It's illegal, and we know it's illegal. The problem, of course, is that the biggest ad platforms in digital are self-serve. So Facebook has about 2.5 million customers, Google far more, and you can just go and buy a Google AdWords campaign today, and they'll take your credit card. You have a valid credit card, they'll take it. They don't really have anything in place to stop you, particularly as long as the ad meets standards and practices it's going to run.
So, Shelly, is this just a headline, or was there a collusion, or was there any sort of wrongdoing? Your thoughts on that?
You know, I'm not in the investigation, but I'm gonna argue that if you're talking about ad placement, the laws need to be changed in such a way that they look a little carefully at who's buying the ads. But that's all you can do. Foreign governments aren't allowed to buy political advertising in the United States. But as far as collusion is concerned, I don't know how Google or Facebook would be colluding with anybody.
But in terms of buying political ads, we're talking about the web, right? So, you know, there are no real laws when it comes to that. Is that where we're seeing this gray area, and that's why we're seeing what we did in the 60 Minutes report with Leslie Stahl, which was actually talking about how the Trump campaign actually used targeted ads to get voters. Your thoughts on that?
You can't conflate advertising, targeting, and digital with any of the other part of this investigation. If you want to talk about who's paying for ads and what's the content of an ad, that is one conversation. The idea of targeting is done by every single company. The 60 Minutes piece you're talking about, they got on TV and Leslie Stahl said, wow, you make 100,000 ads with green ones and blue ones that are so targeted to people. No, that's not targeting. That's straight up optimization. You're just trying to optimize for clicks, and that's what they did. They wanted to get the most number of donations, and this is well documented. It's the way you buy digital ads. There's nothing unique about what was done. The question is, who did it? Who did it? That's a really interesting question. But how you do it, this is how digital works.
Right, Russian operatives seem sort of vague. Do you know the scope of this at all?
So what was crazy is in that same 60 Minutes piece, they say that there was $90-something million spent by the Trump campaign and $100,000 spent by the Russians. Let me tell you what $100,000 worth of targeted ads buys you.
Right.
In a political, so I don't care. And by the way, if you talk to an advertising expert, they will tell you flat out that a hyper-targeted ad is less effective than an ad targeted at a population.
But Shelly, there are people out there that are going to say where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's something that needs to be investigated, but this keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. So your thoughts to that?
My thoughts are that there are regulations in place, and digital does need a little bit of oversight as to where the money comes from, and it would be good to call out the ads. All the ads in the 60 Minutes piece said paid for by Donald Trump. I think that that's a good way to start, but as far as regulating targeting, no, that's silly.
But when you're looking at going into sort of the Rust Belt and actually looking at people who are looking at infrastructure jobs and thinking about what's really important to one community, that's a specificity that was actually seen in this piece that we hadn't seen before. In terms of,
no, first of all, I disagree with that characterization flat out. There were television ads, print ads, there was every kind of ad. There are consumer touch points everywhere, and what you look for as an advertiser is attribution against your entire media mix. The idea that I could put just one ad in front of you that says infrastructure is important, vote for me, and that's going to sway you, no, it's part of a much larger overarching campaign. The pure basis of advertising is a lot of consumer touch points and getting your point across, whether it's hyper-targeted, population-targeted, geo-targeted, zip code-targeted. You can do all of that in digital. Truthfully, you can do it in TV too.
So you're saying Google uncovering these Russian-bought ads on YouTube and Gmail is just much ado about nothing?
No, what I'm saying is that it's illegal for a foreign entity to purchase a political ad. They have to ferret that out and put some systems in place or protocols in place to prevent that from happening again and to make sure that it doesn't happen. It's not legal. But the idea that the targeting was somehow mystical or magical, or that people were targeted or cynical. Look, if you don't like internet advertising, there is no digital ad you've ever seen, and I will say this without hesitation, there's no digital ad anyone who's watching us has ever seen that hasn't been targeted directly at them. By the way, that pair of shoes that keeps coming up that you searched for 3 days ago, how do you think that gets to you? How would you, is that some sinister, that's an algorithm that goes, wow, you looked for shoes. These are the shoes you're looking for. Let me throw them at you again. And it doesn't know if you bought them or not.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's an education for all of us who really don't understand the inner workings like you are. That's why you're the expert and you understand algorithms algorithms. For the rest of us, we're like, well, how is it so intuitive? And how does it know these things?
So it is much ado about nothing. The part that's important that we shouldn't let go is that foreign entities should not be able to purchase political advertising in the United States. There's a law about it, and it should be enforced, and it should be appropriately regulated. But internet targeting of ads to you, get over it. This is how you buy 100% of everything on the internet.
All right.
Welcome to the
That's
internet.
capitalism.
It's 2017. It works.
Right. Thank you, Shelly Palmer.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.